Hello, hello, Aldwyn Altuney here. Welcome to Media Queen TV. It is with great honour and a great pleasure today to be chatting with the beautiful, amazing Elisa James. She is a very accomplished lady. I'll let you know a little bit about her before we start chatting with her. She's an international performer with over 30 years worldwide experience. She started as an acrobatic dancer, actor, and trapeze artist at a very young age and switched to singing full time. Relocated from Australia to Europe in 1995 with a pop recording contract. After 20 more years of touring, recording, and performing all over Europe and the US, Elisa recently moved back to Australia. And she was on the Gold Coast for a while. Now she's in Sydney. She appears regularly on TV and film as an actor and presenter and is booked as a speaker for events. She loves sharing her passion for the voice and is expert in the psychology behind your vocal sound, uncovering the mental, physical, and emotional blocks that affect speaking. She holds a master's degree in voice and a master's in holistic health and teaches vocal mastery and vocal maintenance workshops for all professional voice users. And one of her passions is helping people build a voice of confidence that they love using her signature coaching system, the holistic approach to public speaking and performance. Welcome, Elisa.
Hi, you're in perfect hands today.
Oh, it is such today. As some of you may realize, I have a bit of a husky voice going on. I'm not just putting the sexy thing on. This is actually the remnants of a flu that I've had for about a week, and it's okay. It's not COVID. It's just a normal cold. However, it takes some time to get over, and we actually rescheduled this interview from a few days ago because I've just been in bed for a few days this week and resting, and I've been going through waves of feeling better, etc. So the voice is still husky. So Elisa was giving me some great tips on what to do before we started, which was awesome. And I can't wait to get into those today. So our topic today is perfect for this. It's how to sound like a leader on stage and on camera. And there's times, when we get struck with things like flus or, suddenly something happens, where you've got a gig lined up, you've got something big to do, you're on show and you just have to pull it together, right? Sometimes you just don't have the luxury to just say, oh, well, I'm just going to stay in bed today, right?
And no, absolutely not. And you know how many times I've sung sounding like that?
Really?
You think it's okay for a speaker if you speak for a very short period of time, but if you're a singer and you've been booked months or even years ahead, I've been even booked sometimes years ahead for a gig, you can't just go, oh, sorry, I'm sick, I can't come. Because especially if it was a big gig that was booked and all the publicity went out a long time in advance, you can't just just not show. That's why a lot of speakers and singers and high performers have doctors, a barrage of doctors on hand and voice physiologists and specialists and things to give them injections or medication or whatever they need to get them back on their feet again. Now, I didn't have that luxury, but I've sounded like that many times, and there's lots of things you can do to get around it.
Amazing. And that's just not speaking like this. You're actually saying singing, to be able to sing with a voice like this. So
can you imagine?
Oh my goodness, I cannot imagine.
Are alive with the
you would be sounding very sexy the whole way through, I'm sure. So what do you do, Elise? I'm sure people are wondering, what do you do when you have a voice like this and suddenly, you're husky or you've lost your voice for some reason? Maybe you've been, and this did happen to me once when I went to Thailand. I went to the full moon party and that was massive. And sometimes, when you're at these big outdoor festivals and events and you're screaming and you're singing along and you're having a great time, and the next day you wake up with no voice. It can happen not just with a cold, but sometimes from things like that, right?
Absolutely. So that's exactly right, because there are two ways that people usually lose their voice. One is from illness, And I used to get that a lot. Throat infections, chest infections, asthma, hay fever, bronchitis, allergic rhinitis, all that stuff. It just would stuff up my voice completely. And that's one of the reasons that I started to study holistic health and healing, so I could figure out how to fix my voice. That was one side of the system. But the other side is, you're right, people go to massive events. They go to parties, they scream on roller coasters, they speak over noise for Christmas parties. There's all sorts of things that we do to abuse our voice as well. And most people just don't know that they're abusing their voice. They just have no idea. So what you can do is pretty similar for both types of things. The very first thing that you need to do is identify what's it from. If it's from overuse, then the very first thing we need to do is zip it. There's nothing else that you can literally do except zip it and do some rehabilitation exercises, which I'll show you in a second. Now, when you're sick, then yes, zipping it is absolutely going to help, but you don't want to just stop using your voice altogether. You want to be doing some sort of exercise to strengthen and gently stretch your vocal folds out so it starts to learn better behavior, even if you are sick. I remember when I was on both sides of the fence, I was sick a lot in my 20s when I was doing full-time singing, and sometimes 7 gigs a week or 8 shows a week if I was in a show. It was just so heavy. And then you're sick and you have to sing anyway. And then the other side of the coin is, if you're sick and you strain your voice because you have to try harder, then you go to the other side of the fence anyway. You've got a strained voice and a sick voice. So it's like, you've got to know what to do. So the very first thing is take relative rest. Decide whether you can take relative rest or whether you're going to take complete rest. There are 2 different ways to rest. If you're a professional speaker and a singer and you need to use your voice and it's unavoidable, calculate how many hours a day you're going to professionally use your instrument, speaking or singing, and then have the exact amount of hours of quiet time in the same day. And no, sleep doesn't count. Sorry. So if you're sleeping 8 hours a night, great. That will really help your immune system boost itself up. But you've got to calculate, how much extraneous speaking we do. Are we chatting to our family when we can rest? Are we chatting to our friends? Oh, I'm really sick, blah, blah, blah. Are we doing that when we don't need to? We probably use our voice more than we need to, a lot. Especially if you're bubbly and outgoing sort of person, sometimes you can't shut them up.
So we need I've ever had that issue.
We have the issue today because you're going to be saving your voice. Yeah, and look, if you're a chatty person, I remember years ago when I was in America and I'd have lots of people coming to me from all different ages. There would be literally 7 and 8-year-olds with vocal nodules from screaming and being outgoing and playing too loudly in the playground at school. They would literally lose their voice and have a pathological voice disorder because of the way that they were using their voice at 7 or 8, just unmindfully. And let's face it, if a 7 or 8-year-old is losing their voice, it's usually because they're rambunctious, they're outgoing, they're bubbly, they're chatty, and their parents are probably the same. So they've been raised in that way. It's great, but it can be very vocally abusive.
Great tips. And we've got lots of people joining us. Hello, Chris from Belgium says hello.
Hi, Chris.
We've got Jose here. Hello. That's great advice. We've got someone called Ice.
Ice. Hey. Nice to see you, Icey.
Hello,
Ice baby.
Dana. Hello, Dana.
Hi. Nice to see you. Fantastic.
Great to see you. Thanks for joining us. If you have any questions for Elisa as we go on today, then let us know. It is flu season for some parts of the world. And in fact, of course, with the whole COVID fiasco and dramas that have been happening in the last 2 years, of colds and flu can happen at any time, as well as be very conscious of how you're using your voice as you're hanging out with your family over the festive season as well. So this is absolutely perfect that I have come down with a flu just before this interview. So
it's engineered, ladies and gentlemen. It's engineered. Okay. So now I'm
rescheduled. Yes. Okay. Yeah. So the tips.
So I'm going to give you a couple of things that would be really handy. Now, Aldwyn, you had a cup. Can you just hold
Yes,
the
I have.
cup up there?
I have a
If
cup
you
here.
don't
Yes.
have one of these, all you need is an old-fashioned cup, a coffee cup. That's all, right?
Yep.
So if you put hot water, boiling water, just boiled,
Yes.
into either one of these, this is from the chemist for about $20, super easy to
Yes.
get in any corner. Or if you don't have one of these, just use a coffee cup. You put boiling water in there, and then you've put your face over it with a tea towel, hopefully,
Yes.
or a towel
Yes,
or
I have a
something.
tea
And
towel
then
over
with your
the top.
mouth
Yep.
open, breathe in the steam
Uh-huh.
right directly into your mouth. Now, to get your voice healthy again, this is for vocal fatigue from using it too much. And also if you're sick and your voice is really playing up because of the inflammation around your vocal folds and the mucus. Usually when we're sick, it's a combination between the inflammation and the mucus. The mucus is being produced, of course, to get rid of the virus or whatever's in our body that's trying to get out. Our body actually heats our body up. That's why we get temperatures sometimes. It wants to boil, literally boil the virus and bacteria to death. That's its job, hopefully without killing us at the same time. That's its job. So it needs to boil everything to get it out of our body. But at the same time, our body is very clever. It produces copious amounts of mucus everywhere in our airways to blow out and get rid of that virus or that bacteria. It's for a reason. So you don't want to be taking things like Sudafed and things that dry up the mucus, because your body's actually trying to get rid of the mucus.
Uh-huh.
Probably much more beneficial when you're in that gluggy stage to get something. I can't remember what it's called because it was really good in America, but it's a powder that you can put in water that liquefies your mucus. Now, I believe that there's a cough medicine. I don't know if it's Benadryl or something like that, but there's a cough medicine that can liquefy the mucus in your chest. I actually spoke to the chemist about that. I said, okay, how does it magically know that the mucus is only here? What if you have mucus in your nose or mucus in your head or mucus somewhere else? And he said, oh, well, in theory, it should work for mucus anywhere. So I thought that was a really good thing to know. If you don't have this thing that I had in America, I can't remember what it's called, Metamucil, or it was started with M. I'm sorry, I don't remember. But it was brilliant because you could just take it and it would literally liquefy everything so you could cough it up and get it out of your body, even if it was really heavy. That's probably much better for you. And things like nasal sprays that are made of saline solution so it doesn't affect your airways in a bad way. But steaming is one of the best things that you can do. Rest, of course, first, as many hours during the day as you can, and then steam multiple times a day. Now, when I'm working with Tony Robbins speakers who are very high end, can you imagine what their pressure is? They're on stage for sometimes 12 hours a day with very little breaks. And this is no joke. I've been at Tony Robbins events live to support one of my speakers, Scott, and I watched them on stage 12 hours. I was wanting to go to the bathroom. I wanted to have a break. I'm in the audience, for God's sake, in the VIP section at the front thinking, when are they going to get off? They didn't get off. They just go and go and go and go. It's incredible. So what I did with Scott was I set up a rehabilitation routine for him, and he had all these little things and all these, holistic medicines around him. And they used to take photos of himself backstage surrounded by all his arsenal of tools that he could use. But he didn't lose his voice after that at all. And this is the thing, a lot of the coaches and trainers that work with Tony Robbins in the organization as well have to turn up and coach people over loud music for up to 6 days at a time when they're doing something like Date with Destiny. Now, most people would lose their voice on the second or third day and have nothing left. So when I coach people on voice production, voice projection, voice maintenance, voice rehabilitation, all that sort of stuff, I've heard back from those exact same coaches that used to lose their voice that now they're the only ones that have their voice 6 days later. So these techniques and things, they do work. They really, really work. Now, the next best friend is this little beauty. And this is just a reusable straw.
Okay.
Now, you're going to do this at least 3, 4, even 5 times a day. You're not going to harm yourself. The thing that I want people to know and remember, though, is these things, when you buy them, they come with sometimes little eucalyptus oil or tea tree oil or things like that, because it's also designed for stuffy noses. Now, that's okay if you put oil in it for a stuffy nose, but you need to keep your mouth shut, because when you're breathing in the oil will be filtered by the little airway nasal hairs in your nose. But we have no such filtration system in our throat. So you never, ever want to put oil in hot water and then breathe it straight through your vocal folds. You will burn your vocal folds. You've got to be super careful. So if you have a blocked nose and you want to try to clear your nose, keep your mouth shut and breathe the steam through your nose. If you're trying to heal your vocal folds, then open your mouth. Nothing except hot water. Nothing. Super important. So please write that down. Remember that. And then this. Your best friend. Now, I don't have enough water here, but
great tip on the hot water. And I wonder, does it matter if it's filtered water or because we've got fluoride in the water here in Australia?
Oh, that's a really good point, actually. I usually fill up my water jug. I have a water jug that's filtrated, like a proper filter system, a really good one. And then I fill my kettle from that jug.
Right.
So I'm getting rid of as many toxins as I can, I suppose, that house. But that's a very good point. So if you have a bottle, now it should be really filled up to about here to do this properly, because it's not going to work very well. But this strengthens not only the airways if you've got a respiratory ailment going on, but it also strengthens what's called back pressure and support. And the support and the back pressure, which I won't go into right now because it's too detailed, but that is what makes the voice strong and powerful and projected with no effort. Most people think that voice is projected from here. It's absolutely got nothing to do with the throat or the chest. Nothing. Your voice, the muscles that project your sound, that propel air up the trachea, are your respiratory function muscles. So that's why you need to exercise those and not your throat muscles. So we're going to put water in a bottle, preferably more water than this, and then blow. And when you keep those bubbles going for as long as you can, you're strengthening your respiratory muscles. And when the respiratory muscles are strengthened, then your voice will be able to project really loudly and clearly on any note, any pitch for any length of time, because you're powering the system with the correct muscles. You're not trying to push from here. This is what I find with a lot of my motivational speakers. They're very high-end sort of speakers, and they have a high expectation of themselves, A-type personalities and all that. They tend to push, like really push their voice too hard. And when you push, squeeze, and force your voice, it makes it feel very uncomfortable, very scratchy, very raspy, and it quits on you really quickly. So doing the bubbles with a straw into water is your first and best thing to do, with no sound at all. Just blow, literally just exercising your respiratory muscles to blow, okay? And the tummy muscle will move inwards towards the spine as you're blowing air if you're doing it correctly. Now, you can then, if you get used to that action, you can then take the straw out of the water and do the same thing with sound. I don't know if that cuts out, does it?
No, that was good.
It stays there? Okay, so that's the very first one to do. You can do this in the water and you can do it without, but just sustaining a sound very gently, very softly and very gently, making sure that you're using your tummy muscle moving in towards the spine to power the sound and not doing this. Because if you try to power the sound using your chest and your shoulder muscles, you're doing it wrong. That's not how the voice works. There's nothing up here to power the voice at all. It has to be powered by air. It's like a pump, If you remember, I know we're too young, Aldwyn, to remember this. We're too young. But there's an old-fashioned tool device for making fire called a bellow, right? So when the bellow opens, it sucks air in and fills up the concertina, just like our lungs, right? Don't do anything. themselves. And then when you blow, when you pull those handles together like that and squeeze the bellow, squeeze the concertina, that action blows the air out of the pipe at the front. Our voice is exactly the same. So we are now becoming a bellow system using the power of our abdominal muscle to blow that air out. And that will help you heal your voice so much faster. You're using the right muscles instead of the wrong muscles. So then you want to start doing sirens like this. And a siren is just really siren is like this, but I'm going to do it a simple way. And you want to go very gentle, very soft. And every single time you use the straw, go a little bit higher and a little bit lower, a little bit higher, a little bit lower, every single time. Because what that's doing is it's stretching your vocal folds, because they're really like little soft tissues that are like this. This is what our vocal folds do all day long. So when I'm low and speaking low and strong in the sound of leadership and authority, for instance, I have a very thick, fat, strong connection. But when I stretch, when I go to a higher vibration, suddenly I have less connection because we've got that stretch going on like a rubber band. And when the stretch happens, we have to use a different type of muscle set and a different thought process and a different intention, because we need to allow that stretch. If we go, and try to push and force to a higher note to do this, for instance, woo! If you're exclaiming excitement or something, or going way down a slippery slope, then that exclamation of excitement will need you to stretch your vocal folds out. Now, when we're sick, they won't stretch because they're so inflamed and full of mucus and gunk that they literally can't stretch properly. So we've got to encourage them to do that stretch. Just a little bit at a time. And gently over time, they will learn, oh, okay, I can make this connection with the least amount of effort. I can make the connection with the least amount of effort. And I did that for a long time, because when I was 23, about the same age as Adele when she first started and then got massive voice issues, I got massive nodules on my vocal folds from living a very bad and unhealthy life, really, to put it mildly. I had such big nodules on my vocal folds that I literally couldn't connect them. So I sounded like that pretty much all the time.
Right.
Excuse the plane going overhead. It's nothing I can do about that. But then I had to train my vocal folds how to work less and do it more efficiently. And that took a long time, maybe 3 to 6 months of retraining all my muscles. But I cured those nodules organically, naturally, holistically. And that set me off on a completely different path in life, because I had many, many friends that had 3 nodule operations by the time they were 30. Now, okay, if you're going to get a big lump on your hand from banging your hand in the door time and time and time again, and then the blister becomes a callus, you think, well, hang on, shouldn't I stop banging my hand and closing the door on top of my hand, right?
Yes.
We learn from bad behavior and we learn not to do that again. But for whatever reason, if you don't get rehabilitated properly, you just go straight back into old habits. So what happened to Adele? She lost her voice again less than a year after that operation, carving off those nodules. Can you imagine a knife going and cutting off that lump on your vocal folds? Then, of course, 2 years later, she had massive nodules on her vocal folds again because she didn't change the way she sang. Everybody loves it, let's face it, which makes it hard. And then she had to have the operation all over again. It's like, it's just a vicious cycle. You can't do that to your body. You've got to learn better ways.
Fascinating. I love this conversation. This is so cool. And the voice is something that we often take for granted, right? We don't think about this often. We don't think about how we breathe, the diaphragm breathing, breathing in so that your tummy goes out, which is how we're born, right? And then as we get older, somehow we tend to shallow breathe from the chest all the time. So why does that happen? Why do we just, when we're naturally born breathing from the diaphragm, and then we tend to breathe higher and higher up into the throat? Why does that happen?
I know. I don't have a theory for exactly what happens, but I think, well, some of it is to do with women wanting, especially women, because this happens a lot for women wanting to have a flat stomach. This is our biggest nightmare for us. If we want to stand up straight and look slim in our clothes, let's face it, a lot of us want to do that when we're, want to look nice or whatever. You hold your tummy tight. You try it now. Hold your tummy in, like really flat.
Mm-hmm.
You might look good for a second, but you can't breathe. Now try to breathe.
Yeah.
The only way you can breathe is to get a tiny bit of air into the top of the lungs. So that's what we do all day. When we have chronic tummy tension, this can happen for people who hold their tummy in, people who are really super skinny. I see this a massive issue in my skinny clients. The other one is if you're a bodybuilder or if you work too many front abs, if you do too many ab compressions at the front, not at the side, then that will build that muscle too quickly and that'll give it too much tension. So when we have that chronic stomach tension in the abdominal muscle, it leaves us really tight and we end up sounding like that because we're literally holding our breath when we're trying to speak. We're not allowing that beautiful airflow to make the vibration of the vocal folds in a healthy way. You see, if you think of vocal folds in a simple way, we need to blow airflow up the trachea and blow them into a wave. It's like having a flag. If you imagine you have a beautiful flag with a picture on it, the wind has to blow in a certain velocity and air pressure to keep the flag flying, right? Once the wind is blowing at that correct air pressure, then the flag flies in all its glory and we can see the entire picture. But the second that the wind changes or drops or the pressure drops, the flag just falls and you can't see anything. This is exactly what the voice is doing. So when we have this beautiful vibrational airspeed velocity under pressure, we can do anything with our voice at any time because we have full control over the vocal wave, over the mucosal wave. But the second that the airflow changes or is not managed correctly, we can get this, it can sort of break and skip and jump, and you can get all sorts of weird things going on. And it's just air changes, air pressure changes. And this is what happens a lot, when we're mismanaging our voice. It could be tension. It could be tummy tension. It could be chest breathing. It could be anxiety. It could be trauma. It could be all sorts of things really affecting the way that we breathe. I find that a lot of people who have had trauma and anxiety for a very long time are all chest breathers. And it's no surprise, really, that is a perpetual problem in our lives, because if we have chronic tummy tensions from anxiety or nerves or being shy or being anxious or being on a vigil all the time, like somebody who's dealt with trauma, PTSD 20 years, I can write the book on that. When we have all that tension in our body, we only can breathe up here. That's all we can do. There's nothing else you can do. And that lack of oxygen and that lack of control will just perpetuate that anxiety cycle. And I didn't know that 30 years ago when I had really bad PTSD and I had chronic stomach tension, and that was a huge issue. And I think that was a very big reason that I lost my voice way back in my 20s. Because of all that. Not only, of course, I smoked too much. Well, I smoked, full stop. I smoked,
Yes.
I drank, I shouted, I sang, I did microphone work outside of stores. I mean, I did studio work, I did stage work, I did band work. It was just like way too much, with a bad lifestyle to top it off and a bad mindset to top it off and bad breathing habits just to put the cherry on the pie.
Amazing.
People don't realize that all of this really has a massive impact on the way that we sound.
Yes, huge, huge. And, I love all these tips. So how long would you recommend that we do these things for, like the steam or the breathing, to train ourselves to breathe correctly, etc.? How long should we allocate to this, do you think?
Yeah. A great rule of thumb is we've got to think of how long it takes to change a habit. If you're in the habit of, say, getting up and having a cup of coffee every single day, that habit is in place for you. And then over time, you're never going to get up and not have a cup of coffee because it's a habit, right? We need to habit stack and get your breathing exercises habit stacked against something else that you do every day. So if it's having a coffee in the morning, for example, or taking your dog for a walk, then do it straight after and habit stack those things. I would highly recommend that you do it on the floor morning and night for at least 5 minutes, at least. And that, not those particular exercises. I teach another set of exercises, which is just deep breathing exercises with sound. They're called accent method breathing, but it's absolutely awesome stuff. I teach all of my clients, and I teach them to do it on the floor like this. So if you're laying on the floor and you put your arms in front of you and put your head to the side, you'll notice even if you just breathe and don't make any sound, you will diaphragmatically breathe within 30 seconds because you cannot do it wrong when you're fully aligned on the floor and you're facing down. Now, I found when I was taught this with the Alexander technique and all that in conservatorium years ago, we were taught to lay on our backs with a little book under our head, our hands on our belly button and our knees bent. Well, I found that with my own students and with me, if we were ever having a panic attack or we were really in trauma or we were anxious or we were sick or whatever, we couldn't relax those chest muscles and we would still continue to breathe incorrectly. So sometimes that doesn't even work. So I switched it over to the front. Bingo. It just is like magic. Within 5 minutes, you'll feel like a very different person. You get masses of air into the lower lungs because the diaphragm is now working. It puts more oxygen and blood flow to your brain, and then it helps you relax your voice and your mind. So everything is connected. Now, remember, our respiratory muscles are connected to our heart rate and connected to our brain waves. So what I found really interesting is you can measure your heart rate and your brain waves by doing respiratory exercises, and you'll notice that everything starts to slow down. Everything, because it's all connected. So not only does it give you massive benefits for speaking, singing, or acting, but it gives you massive benefits for trauma or anxiety as well. Just that little exercise, laying on your tummy. So if you do that every single day for, say, 30 days, it'll start to become a habit for you. And eventually that habit will become automatic. It's in muscle memory, and you don't have to worry about it. It's there. It's like tying your shoelaces. You and I can probably put our mascara on, sing happy birthday, take the dog for a walk, and drive the car all at the same time, right?
Yeah.
Because all these things are in muscle memory. So once things are in muscle memory, you can multitask.
Yes, yes, so true, so true. I love it. And posture's so important too, isn't it? Posture is really important. And often, so many people slouch now because we're on our devices all the time. And, I've really been noticing so many people slouching and getting this curved back situation, which is also really bad. So I consciously remind myself to roll my shoulders back. And something that I've been into, which has been great, is yoga. I find yoga fantastic to help me breathe from the diaphragm, and also doing different breath work. Like I've been doing some DMT breath work lately, which has been really good. Doing actually consciously, breathing through the, from the diaphragm, breathing in because when you do DMT breath work, you're actually breathing in through your mouth and your nose and breathing out, because you want to get as much breath in and as much breath out as you can. And if you're breathing just through your nose, then you can only breathe in so much. So doing that whole, get oxygenating your body, with some DMT breath work, I've found really powerful. However, if we don't practice, we will go back to old habits, won't we?
That's exactly right. Now, I have a lot of clients just on that point, because this might be very interesting for people who do meditation. If anyone does meditation, just pop that in the chat too. because that might
Yes.
be interesting for you. Because if you're doing meditation or yoga, you might think that that's going to help you become a better speaker, a singer, or an actor. But here's the thing. When we're doing meditation or yoga, we're doing it for a different intention. The intention is to focus and calm down our body and our mind, right? To get that focus and that peace into your life. That's very important, but it's not what the intention of speaking is. So the breath patterns for speaking or singing is going to be very different to that of relaxation in yoga or meditation. The pattern for speaking is usually a 1 second oral inhalation, very fast. If you do it fast with the diaphragm, you'll have plenty of air. And then the exhalation could be 10, 15, 20 seconds or more, depending on the task. Now, we don't do that with yoga or meditation. We usually do it in a very even way. We might do 4 in, 8 out, or 4 in, sustain, 10 out. We might do some sort of other exercise, but it's for focus and for calm and for inner peace. It's nothing to do with powering the voice. So if you want to strengthen your voice and get a better sound for speaking or singing, then you're better off chanting. The in-breath, and drive that voice forward just like you're speaking or singing, using that power, the power of the abdominal muscle. That's going to strengthen your voice very quickly. You can also do that on your tummy. Works a treat.
Yeah, great tips.
And
Great
killing
tips.
2 birds with 1 stone.
Hello, Yusufa. We've got Yusufa here with us. We've got Maya, make your own nasal spray. It's on Google BCO because it's on Google because they're putting the V in the nasal sprays on the shop shelves. Really? Wow. They're putting the V in the nasals, the V is in the vaccine, in the nasal sprays on the shop shelves. Wow. How interesting. I didn't know that. Thank you for sharing that, Maya. Okay, well, there you go. If you make it yourself, then you know at least what's in it, don't you? Chris says no meditation or yoga here. Okay, Chris. Well, it is very, very relaxing. And in fact, all successful people I know actually meditate. It is very, very powerful. It is a great way to heighten your energy, frequency, vibration. And if you look at Dr. Hawkins' scale of consciousness, which I've been living by lately, I absolutely love this. And I'll just show you this diagram. We are in 2 states, my friends, 2 states. We are either in love up here or we're in fear down here. Okay. And when we meditate, we're vibrating up here. We're coming into peace. We're coming into enlightenment, which this is scientifically proven about 100 years ago by Dr. Hawkins. There is Dr. Hawkins' scale of consciousness. So the highest vibration you will feel as a human being is 700 megahertz to 1,000, which is enlightenment. Okay, love is at 528, joy and gratitude 540 megahertz, peace is 600. And when you're down here in fear, which a lot of people are with COVID and all the dramas happening in the world, right? A lot of people are down here right now. Shame is 20, guilt is 30. So getting really conscious to all these too, I think would be very important, wouldn't it, Elisa? Because if you're singing and you're feeling crap down here, that's going to reflect in your singing, isn't it?
Bingo. Absolutely. Yeah. This is why people have so much fear when they're standing on stage or they're getting on camera. They're vibrating in that very low fear, worried about people judging them type of vibration. And when we're worried so much as leaders, what other people are going to say? What are they going to think? What perception are they giving? We can't speak from that place of love or flow. What I love to teach my clients is, first of all, we have to break through all those blockages to self-expression. That's the very first part. We have to break through all the psychology and all the belief systems that are holding you back, because that's what's going to keep your vibration low. And you cannot speak on camera or on stage as a leader with a voice of authority if you're living down there. People are going to be giving people the wrong perception because you're more worried about how you're being perceived rather than serving and giving the gift of education or information to somebody. It's really important that we get our vibration up to that other level. When we get there, we can flow information just like this magical flow of words that comes out of your heart and your soul and connects with the audience, you end up saying the exact right thing at the exact right time that the person in front of you needs to hear. When you're in fear and in a low vibration as a speaker, you cannot do that. Most words come out really choppy. They come out choppy and staccato when people are panicking, and then they get lost and they don't know what they're saying anymore, and they go off on tangents. When we're in the wrong vibration, and all of this is very much connected. So I love that conversation. I teach from a space of science, but it's absolutely backed up by all of this vibrational theory, if you like, because I've seen it work in my own life, and I've seen it also work with my own clients. When they pop into what I call their heart space, when they speak from their heart space, ground themselves, breathe from their diaphragm, that beautiful air just flows out of your mouth and all the ideas come along with it. No worries at all. You don't have to worry about what should I say next. You know,
Yes.
how many times I've written down, if I've done a half-day workshop, for instance, and I've done this all around the world, and I've spent hours and hours and hours and hours writing down all of my information, putting all the slides together, you know, making all this stuff, want to get through all these things before the 4 hours is up. And then I get there, relax, assess the situation, and just go with whatever they need. And then all of my content just gets flown out the window. Is because I can see and hear and feel as an empath what people need in front of me, and I can just change it up according to what they need with no qualms, no worries whatsoever. Because you just have to know and stand in that power of your knowing. If you're an expert and you know your stuff, ground yourself. Stand in that grounding and start to use your voice with strength, because that will start to help you feel more confident and make you sound more confident at the same time.
Yes, love that. So always come from love, my friends. Remember the love heart and come from love. And we have Chris here. He doesn't do, he or she, Chris, I'm not sure if you're a guy or a girl, but Chris has.
Chris is from Belgium. She's a girl.
Oh, girl. Oh, she has her cat for relaxation. Well, that's
nice.
lovely, Chris. That's very, very nice. I have a cat as well for relaxation, and possums, and getting in amongst nature is so important. Grounding, getting your bare feet on the grass and into the sand if you're near the beach. You know, grounding is so important. Looking after your physical body as much as possible. Now, Elisa, I have a question that this has kind of been playing in my mind for years now. I used to MC at the Woodford Folk Festival for 15 years or so. I've MC'd to some massive audiences there. And one time I was MCing for Colin Hay from Men at Work, who the Down Under song some people might know. And I actually had a sore throat this one time I was going to MC. And I remember chatting to Colin Hay's partner at the time, and she said something a lot of singers do, and I don't know if you've heard this, but she said they actually drink urine, and this helps the throat. And this is an old, I know it's bizarre, but I actually looked it up, and it actually says there's healing properties to drinking urine, and apparently singers have done this over time. I don't know if you've heard anything about it, but it kind of made me think, you know, I wonder how many people actually do this. You know.
Oh my God, there are easier ways to heal your voice. Oh my God, seriously? That is the funniest thing I've ever heard. I've heard so many stories like pineapple juice, you know, all sorts of lemon honey, ginger, garlic, you know, all sorts of stuff. There's lots of old wives' tales. Some of them are true, some of them may not be true. The urine thing I've never heard of. There might be some merit into it if it heals the body, but let's think about what that means for a second. Your vocal folds are here.
Yes.
If you've abused them or damaged them from coughing a lot, and they're all swollen and filled with mucus, then you're drinking urine into your esophagus and into your stomach, which then systemically needs to be taken up into the entire system. Over time, anything that we digest or swallow will take 1 to 2 hours to actually absorb into our system, be utilized by the body, then the body will then decide whether it's useful and helps our immune system by getting stronger, or whether it's not useful and gives us a stomachache or makes us ill, right? So when we're eating or drinking anything, we need to think about, how is this going to help me systemically support my voice? What people get wrong a lot, especially as professional speakers, they take things like lozenges with them, thinking that if they suck a lozenge and they have a sore voice, then the lozenge will help the voice. Well, hang on. When you're sucking a lozenge, let's say it's Fishman Friends or a peppermint or a strepsil, it doesn't matter what it is. Whatever ingredients are in that lozenge are going nowhere near the vocal folds, because you would die. The vocal folds are at the top of the airway. You're going to die if you swallow a lozenge into your airway. You want to obviously melt that lozenge and swallow it down the esophagus, which goes into the stomach. Same thing is going to happen. If it's going to help your body systemically, it's going to strengthen the immune system and help make you better over time. Not magically, over time. If you start taking echinacea today or vitamin C, do you think you're going to be well in 10 minutes? The body doesn't work like that. Well, maybe it does in some places if you have a very high vibration. I'm not sure. Let's put that aside. But imagine most of us are going to take vitamin C, echinacea, olive leaf extract, whatever it is to help you get better. You're going to take it over time. So 2 or 3 days later, you'll be feeling much stronger because your system has been supported. Your immune system is getting the nutrients and the balance and the boost that it needs. You cannot swallow anything into your airways past your vocal cords. It doesn't work. So that's why I'm suspicious about the urine thing. It would, if it was systemically helping our immune system, it would take time, not immediate. So I think a lot of, just one extra thing. I think a lot of pop singers and rock singers and actors also are not really well trained around voice. They might have picked things up, maybe had a few lessons, maybe not, but they've just sort of built their skill over time. A lot of people are in the world doing that right now, so they don't really know.
Yeah, got it. That's a good point. Yeah. Oh, so interesting. I'm finding this fascinating conversation. And we've got Sonia with us from Bali. Good morning from Bali. It's coming up to lunchtime here on the Gold Coast. Good to see you, Sonia. Sonia does a lot of live streaming events. So the topic today, how to sound like a leader on stage and on camera. So on the point of, like, it takes time for your body to assimilate what you drink and what you eat, is it good to then not eat for a while, not drink for a while generally before you perform?
Yes and no. If you're going to perform, it's like going to the gym or running for a marathon. If you're going to do something, let's say, that would take a lot of energy and enthusiasm and calories, you want to actually consume something, say, an hour before. You don't necessarily want to be consuming something 10 minutes before you go to a 5-mile run or a 30-mile hike. You're not going to do that. You're going to fill up and let your body assimilate those nutrients to give you the energy that you need half an hour to an hour later. So I would suggest this with voice specifically. If you're going to do a big event, say you're going to do an hour on stage or on camera, or you're going to do a few hours on stage at a conference, then make sure that you hydrate at least 2 hours before the gig. And I mean hydrate properly, not just a sip of water. I mean, take, a liter of water when you wake up in the morning, sip it over an hour or so, and make sure that your body is fully hydrated before you actually walk onto that stage. That's the very first thing you need to do. People think that you can take sips on stage and that will hydrate you magically. It doesn't work like that. The body takes an hour or 2 or more to fully hydrate all the cells. And that would go right all the way up to your mucosal lining of the entire body, which includes your vocal folds. They have mucosal lining. Now, with food, what I highly recommend is you eat something very clean, like protein with salad or protein with vegetables, something very clean, about an hour beforehand. So hydrate first, then eat once you've, settled down the water. You eat about an hour before you go onto stage. And then you can sip water, a few minutes before you go on the stage, but you don't want to drink so much water that you're going to then pee when you're on stage, because that could be an
Yes.
issue.
Yes.
And don't think that, you're going to be on stage for an hour, and so therefore you need to sip water to get through your presentation. The only reason that people do that is because they feel very dry because they're nervous. When you sip that water, it sort of makes your throat feel a little less dry just on the outside. It's not really going to help you, but it makes us feel a little less sticky and peanut buttery. When we get nervous, we tend to get peanut butter sort of mouth and then
Yes.
sweaty palms. So that taking a little sip of water when you're on the stage, that sort of alleviates that stickiness in the mouth. That's okay. But that's all it does. If you've got something like I have a lot of health issues that I've had to manage over the years, so I couldn't drink orange juice before a gig, for instance. I certainly wouldn't drink alcohol before any speaking presentation because it dries out your entire body. I also wouldn't have bread because I'm a little sensitive to gluten and it makes more mucus in my throat, which I just do not like. And I certainly would steer away from tea or coffee because I have it with milk. So no dairy products for me, because immediately within the hour, I'll just be struggling with so much mucus. It'll be ridiculous.
How interesting, because Sonia here, she says ice matcha milk tea works well for her. Isn't that interesting? So she likes the milk tea.
Yeah, and ice. I mean, most people, if they're speakers, singers, or professional singers and presenters, they would avoid ice drinks also because they don't believe that it will help warm up their throat if it's all icy cold. Depends on where you're speaking, of course. If you're in a hot country with air conditioning, it might be nice to have a bit of a cool drink before you go on stage. It depends. You've got to work out what works for you. I know what works for me. Yes. So I know that iced drinks and milky drinks don't work for me. I might be okay for the first 10 minutes, but within an hour of that systemically coming through my body, I'll have a nightmare on my hands an hour later. I know that I'm going to suffer an hour later, not a minute later, an hour later. So this is what we've got to keep a food diary for, is to find out what to avoid and what to drink or what to eat. And if you're a high performer, you've got to know these things. It's super important.
Absolutely. So what are some tips you've got for us, some other tips on how to sound like a leader on stage and on camera?
Yep, absolutely. Love it. Look, there are two different ways that I look at voice training for what I do. And one is sound, the sound that we make, and then the patterns of speech that we have on top of that. On the one side, if we have a sound that doesn't sound like a leader, if it doesn't sound confident, it doesn't sound authoritarian, people are not going to listen to you. So the very first thing that I look at with all of my clients is, do I need to adjust their sound first so that more people pay attention? The biggest thing that holds them back, and I've got a little free handout for that called Why People Don't Listen and how to change that in 5 easy steps. And we'll share that with you underneath this broadcast later. But what it shows you is that the very simple things that we do in speech can sometimes be such a big distraction that people can't follow you. They literally can't listen. And those 5 really simple things to eradicate are these. Vocal fry. Any noise in the sound is really annoying because it makes you sound like a teenager who's like, doesn't care, why people. Yeah, fantastic. When you have noise in your sound, and that's usually from laziness, it's literally only from laziness or cultural background. You'll hear in Disney kids, oh my God, my mom, she's really pissing me off, It's just, if you sound like a teenager all the time, people are not going to pay attention to you. And believe me, I get people who are 26 and sound like that on the phone, and they're not getting a promotion at work. They're not being a leader.
Right.
They're not getting where they want to be. And I said, okay, how old are you? My guess would be that you're under the age of 30, probably around between 26 and 28. Would that be true? And they went, yeah, how did you know? I was like, because I'm on the phone with them. I might not see them on Zoom.
Yes.
And I said, well, it's because that's a pattern that you've picked up from your teenage years, culturally, from your peers, whatever, that you've taken into your adult years that does not fit You cannot be a leader and sound like a teenager. It just doesn't work, right? So then the next thing, so you have to eradicate those distractions. The next thing is people who are a little insecure, they do something that I call the trail off. And they'll start to speak really well and then they'll sort of trail off to nothing. Sorry? And so every last word in a sentence or 2 or 3 words will literally be so low in the throat and so backplaced that it just literally disappears. And this is a very common pattern in people who have had very, let's say, not abusive, but it could be abusive. Let's say parents that were very domineering or critical or judgmental. What the children learned is that they can learn how to speak up and challenge their father or their mother, and then they get really shy and then they trail off again. So they go to challenge and then they get really scared. And that's a pattern sonically that we actually develop over time. I've seen it on stage 2 where people literally back off away from the audience. Or on camera, I see people do this and they back off from the camera. It's exactly the same behavior. It's a way that we are trying to hide and not be in trouble or abused, right? It's that backing off. So both of these habits are very much from people who are not confident and a little insecure perhaps, and maybe even shy or have some sort of anxiety going on from the past behaviors. That's why I keep saying psychology is first. Psychology and mindset has to get out of the way first. That's the second distractor. The third distractor is called upspeak. And upspeak is what is very prevalent in women, especially in Australia, but I've also seen this around the world in other cultures. Everything that they speak, it goes up. And so every time they speak any sentence, it sort of sounds unfinished. And then the next sentence sounds unfinished. And then the next sentence sounds unfinished. And then you have no idea, the listener has no idea what's going on. Because hang on, are you asking for my approval? Are you asking me a question? I'm not sure how to respond. You know, it's everything sounds like you're not sure. If everything sounds like you're not sure, you're not going to be taken seriously. People are not going to listen to you. It's very important that a question is a question and a statement is a statement. Now, it sounds very simple, but believe it or not, sometimes in classes with my students, I spend a lot of time on this because some people don't get it. They just upspeak all the time. And again, it's mostly in girls and it can be in younger women, but I've also heard it in lots of women under the age of 40 who are feeling a little insecure around the way that they speak. That will become very prevalent. And the last 2 are just as important. One is fillers. When we use fillers like, so, you know, right? If we keep asking again we're biding time on the one hand, but on the other hand, we're also asking for approval. We don't need to do either. It just muddies up all of the message that you have and stops people from listening to you. So the very first thing to do is to eradicate your fillers so you sound more like a leader. And then if you've got a filler that's very prevalent, for instance, like so, see if you can catch yourself and find out, what is that for me? Record yourself. Do I start every sentence with so? Sometimes we do. We don't notice that we're doing until we record it. It's very, very important that we know what our fillers are and figure out whether we're just biding time or whether it's a habit. It could be a habit, and a habit can be changed. And the last one is monotone. If you really speak like this in the same tone all the time, it doesn't matter whether the tone is really up here all the time and it's the same tone, or whether it's down there all the time. You're going to sound like a racehorse reader, you know. Or Mr. Bean. I'm not very good at that, but you know,
they come around the round.
I know, it's just like this monotone. I can't understand a word they're saying because it's all monotone. When we do that, again, it's so uninteresting that people are going to go, what? There's no changes. There's no changes. So those little things, all of them can be changed. Like all of those things can be adjusted. All of those things are just habits that you've picked up from somewhere for one particular reason, and it's just become a habit. Like going to the gym is a habit, and having coffee in the morning is a habit. Drinking water is a habit. It's just habits. We've got to learn, if we want to be a leader in our field, we have to raise our vibration and change our habits to make good habits in our life so they become muscle memory, and we can just operate like that easily. People will listen to you more if you sound like a leader.
Yes. Oh, I love those tips. And that's the thing, is people are often so close to what they do and how they speak. For myself, for example, I did Toastmasters for 3 years, and one thing that they do in Toastmasters is they count how many ums and ahs you say, right? And I had many ums and ahs, and I know I still say ums and ahs sometimes. So this is where working with a expert, with a coach who can actually see what you're doing where you can't see it, often you're just too close to what you do to see it, is absolutely worth its weight in gold. So on that point, I know there's many different ways people can work with you, Elisa. So can you please share how people can connect with you and do that?
Yeah, look, absolutely. Look, if you're interested in something very quick and easy to change the 5 big disempowering vocal sounds, is what I call them, then you can download that free guide. It's called Why People Don't Listen and How to Change That in 5 Easy Steps. And it's a very simple 5 or 6 page PDF that shows you all the things that we just talked about and reminds you how to break those habits. That's a very easy step for everyone to do. Now, if you're more serious and you're looking for some sort of training program, then I highly recommend that you click on the Christmas sale link, because 3 of my courses are at 50% off right now until December 31st only. And some of these are big ticket items and some of them are online courses for a lower price. They are cheap as chips right now. So if you want to dip your toe in the water and have a look at what's right for you, the 3 online courses that I've got will be a brilliant place to start. But if you're more serious, then VIP is the way to go. And that information is on that Christmas sale page as well. And then the last thing, if you just want to go, I really need some help, I want to smash out my YouTube channel next year, I want to raise my visibility, I want to get on camera with confidence, I want to gain those skills, then VIP is the best way to go. And that's the best thing you can do, is book in for a consult. Then I can hear your voice, I can talk with you and find out what your goals are, and then we can together get a path together for your training that will be right for you. Some people just want to be heard. Some people want to move up that corporate ladder and get a promotion, where other people like you and me, entrepreneurs, they need to grow their brand. They need to be visible on camera, on social media. They need to have a YouTube channel, beautiful sales videos on their website. You know, if that's you, then book in for a consult and I'll show you exactly the right path for your needs.
Fantastic. I love that. Thank you so much. I'll put some of those links in the chat there. Also, there's the Why People Don't Listen. We've got that one there. Why People Don't Listen. We'll put the link there. Yep, everything's in there now. So apply for a consult. The Christmas sale sounds amazing up until the end of this year. So you've got about another 7 or 8 days.
Yep.
8 days or so. That's brilliant. I just noticed an I just said Oh my goodness, I'm so conscious now, Elisa.
Hang on. No, but you know what? This is a great rule of thumb. And I can't remember where I read it, but it makes a lot of sense. If we're doing everything with ums, ers, throughout our sentence within a minute, people are going to switch off. If you're speaking quite coherently and fluently and you only have one every 60 seconds, nobody's going to notice. Literally. Right. It's very natural for us to bide time and think and say, it's okay. No big deal. Just don't do every second word as a filler. It'll drive people crazy.
Yes, yes. And there is such a thing too in speaking, the power of the pause, right? Elisa, could you speak about that briefly?
Oh, absolutely. And I love this. And this is very important for people who use fillers. What they don't realize is that pause can be used for effect. However, if you're using pauses, or what I call gaps, because you're your thoughts are being peppered with all the way through, your thoughts can't continue. Now you've got so many gaps, the pause is not going to be effective at all. What you need to do, this is my super tip of the day, you need to speak in a rainbow and then decide when you're going to pause, comma. I'm not done. I'm going to speak in another rainbow of airflow all the way through to the end, and then I'm going to pause again for effect. Take a breath. Nobody will see it because I'm diaphragmatically breathing. And then finally, I'm going to do another rainbow and finish on a full stop. If we try to do rainbows of fluidity, like I call it flow speak, if we do rainbows of fluid sound and then a pause, it makes a massive impact. But if we put pauses all the way through, it's just distracting.
Yes, yes. And it's different, of course, with media as well. If you're doing a media interview on radio, for example, then it's called dead air. So we don't want the pauses on radio. It's very different when you're public speaking or on stage.
Yeah.
You want things to flow, because if there's dead air in radio, then people switch channels. They'll think you've gone off air. So very interesting.
That's a good point. Yeah, if they were listening and not switching channels all the time, then that would give them more attention. But you're right. It's like Facebook scroll, right?
Yes.
If we can't keep that interest, then people are just going to scroll. So
Yes.
yeah, different rules, I suppose, for different platforms. What we're mostly talking about is YouTube for interviews, for
Yes.
keynote speeches, things like that. I use the power of the pause in my YouTube videos all the time. Works really great.
Yes. And of course, video is quite different platform. A lot of people are doing online TV now, like we're doing here, doing these kind of interviews. And have you found much has changed for you, Elisa, since you've been doing more online than physical shows lately with COVID?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I'd say my business has probably doubled, maybe even tripled in the last 18 months, because now people were more open to getting training via Zoom and doing virtual training. Whereas before, people would insist, not everybody, but say 50% of my clients would insist on having me in the space. I was very used to going somewhere, giving a presentation, or rather having them in my studio. Nowadays, when it wasn't possible anymore, that opened up the few people that had that mindset of it doesn't work on Zoom. But it absolutely works a treat on Zoom. And now I teach people all over the world, people from Dubai or Spain or England, or I've got all people from lots of people from Europe. Chris is from Belgium. She's one of my students. And then people all over America and Australia. It just opens up your business. It opens up your world. Now we can speak on platforms everywhere. It's brilliant. I love it.
Yes, same. My business has also tripled in the last few years since COVID as well, since I've taken everything back online. I actually was online years ago and I went offline, now gone back online again. So it's interesting. We move with the flow of how things go in the world. But it is wonderful to connect with people as we have here. We've connected with people all over the world, which is just brilliant. We've got someone here, looks like from Russia. I have no idea what that says, but looks like probably from Russia or one of the Eastern Bloc countries over there. Awesome. So hello to, I can't even say the name properly there, but hello to that person. And we have Chris here from Belgium, of course. It's so glad I've booked the VIP for my YouTube channel. Excellent, Chris.
Fantastic.
Jose says, thank you so much. Jose, I hope I'm saying your name correctly. Susan says gold. Susan just released the Shackles. She just launched a compilation book this week on Monday. It launched on Amazon. So congratulations, Susan. We did an interview on Monday. I was in an even sicker state than I am now. My voice was very crackly. However, we soldiered through that interview because Monday was launch day. So, you know, had to be on air. I was in bed before that interview, in bed after that interview, as you do, Susan. Glad you could join us.
And sometimes you have to, you know, the show must go on is always, that's always been my motto. I've been a performer since I was 11 years old, and there's very few shows that I've had to cancel, like really very few. And I've done hundreds, probably, thousands and thousands and thousands. I can't even count the shows that I've done, but thousands and thousands of shows. Probably less than half a dozen I've cancelled literally because of a voice issue, because I was so sick. I couldn't speak. I had nothing left. You can soldier on. You just have to figure out good techniques and good strategies to help you do that without damaging yourself at the same time.
Absolutely gold. And your reputation does precede you, because I have your book here, this hot little book, The 7 Deadly Sins of Public Speaking. Can you believe it? I met Elisa, for those who don't know. We met over the years. We met at different events, etc. And then I found this at my place the other day, and it was given to me by a beautiful lady, Joan Small, who was actually my mentor in Toastmasters. And she was an author of multiple books, at least 10 books. Beautiful lady. She passed away at least 5 years ago now. Absolutely gorgeous lady, and she gifted me this book for Toastmasters to help
Isn't
with
that
my
beautiful? Yeah, because look, I work with Toastmasters all over the world. I have for more than probably 15 years now as a voice coach for Toastmasters. So she came to me for voice training and I gave her that book.
Amazing. And then she
It's such
passed.
a beautiful thing.
Look at that. And then she passed it on to me, and I can see it right behind you there. So can people still get a copy of that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's
Okay.
on my website, elisajames.com.
Fantastic. Absolutely love it. Is there anything else you want to share, Elisa? I could chat to you all day. It's been such an entertaining show today. I really appreciate your beautiful generosity and sharing those amazing tips. I'm going to get some more steam into my vocal cords soon. That's just absolutely gold.
Oh, absolutely. And remember slippery elm bark. Start taking some
Oh,
slippery elm bark because that will help heal the mucosal lining on your vocal folds. Remember, we're talking about systemically. So once you swallow it over a few days, it will help heal the mucosal lining in your vocal folds from the inside out. So that's a really good tip. But last, for the sound of leadership, what my passion is to help more women sound like leaders in business and not compete with men. The biggest thing that I found with all of my very high-end women speakers is that they all like pushing their voice and they're trying to compete with these big male, shouty, loud, annoying voices. We're women. We're different. We have a beautiful instrument. We have a beautiful vehicle to share our message with the world. Why on earth do you want to compete with the same energy and aggression as a male, a dominant sort of personality? You don't want to do that. You want to find out who you are. What's your superpower? What's your strength? What do you bring to the table? How can I stay feminine and empowered and confident all at the same time? Because you can. I want more women speakers. I want more women to stand up and share their message with the world in a very powerful way. And you can do that by making sure that you sound like a leader and speak like a leader. Because remember, it's two different things. The sound of the voice is one side, the way that we speak is the other. And both of those are a skill, not a talent. Anyone can learn these skills. Anyone. So believe in yourself.
I love it. Love it. Otherwise, you'll end up sounding like Tony Robbins, who just about has lost his voice, the poor guy. I saw him at UPW 2 years ago in Sydney, and he is really struggling now with his voice. He's had a really tough time. Well, I mean, look at how he uses his voice. He's done events for so long, and yelling, speaking over loud music. It's not natural, is it? It's not natural to be keeping at that pace and as long as he does for so long. So as much as we love Tony Robbins, this can happen. You can ruin your vocal cords over time.
Yeah. And look, the biggest thing is that when you get to that sort of level and you realize that you have a problem, a lot of my clients are this, they realize that they desperately need a voice coach, but sometimes it's too late. And in his case, he probably found a voice coach about 10 years too late. What you need to do is you need to build habits in as fast as you can, because we need our instrument forever. I don't want to be one of those little old women with the little, wobbly voices. Hi, dear. Shall we go knitting this afternoon? I don't want to sound like that. I'm 56. No. I have a strong, powerful, confident voice. I want to sound like that at 86.
Yes.
We, use it properly or lose it. We need to really take care of our best instrument. And what do we use this for? Life, business, love, communication, everything. This is our best instrument in life and business. So let's look after it.
Yes, it's pivotal. We can't see it, but we know it's there and we know it's incredibly powerful. So let's look after it. Use it or lose it. I love that, Elisa. Thank you so much. Michael says, power to our women. Thank you, Michael, for that comment. And, we love the men in our lives, but, the divine feminine is rising, my friends. It is rising. And that's what's going to bring balance back to this planet, which has been so skewed on the masculine for so long. So it is beautiful to see women rising and the men supporting that. And of course, we love the men too, and particularly in some industries, like the media industry has been very male-dominated for a long time. So one award that I won recently, you may not be aware, Elisa, I won the BX National Award, the Print Media and Photography Award. Wow. And the 7 other finalists were all guys, right? All men. I was the only female, and so it was such an honor to win that award, not just as a woman, but for the whole industry.
Yeah.
So things are shifting, my friends.
Congratulations. That is freaking awesome.
Thank you. Be true to yourself. Be true to yourself and keep shining bright, my beautiful friends. Thank you so much for watching. Any final words, Elisa?
Just learn how to be the best version of you. And I know that sounds very cliche, but that's what we have to find. Don't try to be somebody else. Find out who you honestly are, not your shadow self, your true and best authentic version of you, the person that you show up as when you're at the very highest vibration of you. And you'll know who that is, because when you're there, you're unapologetically you. And you don't care. You're just you. And it feels good. And people around you vibrate with you on that same wavelength. They don't turn away from you. They don't shy away from you. It's not ick. It's like, oh, give me more. It's infectious, but a good infectious.
Yes, and I can tell that you love what you do, and that really is the trick to life: is love what you do what you love. Do what gives you joy. Life is so short. A third of people die by the age of 65, and that goes pretty damn quick. So it can all be over before you realize it. Make the most of every moment. Appreciate the beautiful people in your life. Let your loved ones know that you love them, particularly now we've got Christmas, the festive season coming up, where people will be hanging out with family. Appreciate them. Let them know you love them. That's a huge thing I will say right now, because you never know when it will all be over. Yeah. I have some links here too. I'd love to connect with those who've joined us. Thank you so much for watching. If you've enjoyed what you've seen today, then please pop in the comments. What's something you've got out of today? Let us know in the comments. If you have any questions, pop them in there too. If you like what you've seen, also share the love. We'd love for this great video to get out far and wide. And I know that your YouTube channel is very, very popular, Elisa. So check out Elisa's YouTube channel. You can also check out mine here, Media Queen TV, on this Linktree link. And you look for this here, Media Queen TV, inspiring truth and good news, and all my other links there. I have a few events coming up in the new year. We have the Free Publicity Secrets Masterclass coming up on January 11 at 11 a.m. Queensland time. We have a social media masterclass coming up February 10 at 10 a.m. Queensland time. Nice. And before the end of the year, I am going to be doing the 15th annual Animal Action event, which is the Animal Action Day for Dogs, coming up next Thursday. And we'll be putting the promo out for that today. So look out for that, Animal Action Day for Dogs. We're raising funds for SEQ Canine Rescue, which actually rescues dogs from death row. They've rescued 2,100 dogs from council pounds across Australia in the last 6 years. An extraordinary charity based in Brisbane, in Cedar Vale. That's who we're going to be supporting. So we've got performers and speakers coming up next Thursday, and love you to join us for that. There'll be a live stream event into the Animal Action Events Facebook page, which you will see on this Linktree link, Linktree/Aldwyn. And of course, the Global Good News Challenge coming up. We'll have more Mass Media Tribe events, etc., etc. So they're all in there. Check it out. Thank you so much, Elisa. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you here today on Media Queen TV. Thank you for watching. As Gandhi says, be the change you wish to see in the world. And as I say, shine bright and light up all those around you. Happy festive season. Keep sharing the love, and we'll see you again soon. Bye for now.
Thank you. See you guys. Thank you.